the cloud. There we go. All right, so now we're recording, and everybody gets that little thing that pops up saying that you acknowledge your recording. All right, so one of the things to know about Stony Brook is that we don't require attendance as just a matter of teaching. You know, in terms of some teachers want to have attendance as be part of even their grade. Some teachers really don't care if students come to their course or not, because that's not what, you know, adults are responsible for their own activity and what they prioritize in their life and how things go. So as a university, we're not going to worry too much about that. But the United States Department of Education does require that we do account for people who are getting financial aid to make sure they're getting money for something that we're providing a service for. So we need to show that not only that they are coming to your class and sitting in the back of the room with the newspaper in their lap, but that they are engaging in real learning in your class. That's part of the regulation requirement. The policy says that you're responsible as the instructor for the course, if you are an instructor, and that attendance, since it's supposed to demonstrate actual learning, it can be presumed that they are there if you can show analytics for real learning activities that happen in that class. It can be quizzes, exams, doing tutorials, doing group work, getting around tables. As long as there's some kind of a documentation for the fact that they were there and doing something, that's totally chill. They will accept that as having come to class. They are considered to not have been there if you can't provide that documentation. All right, this is for both face-to-face and online teaching, and we will address both things. So stuff that we're really going over today is Zoom tools for online teaching. And I think everybody, having now gone through COVID, is aware of polling in Zoom and also probably how to get to those reports on the back end. Point Solutions is just the new name for our Turning Technologies clicker system. Turning Technologies was bought by Echo 360, another familiar name at Stony Brook University. So that's just something to get used to. The LMS, which is Brightspace, which is not anything else. It is Brightspace. And Echo 360 itself, which has polling tools inside of it for both synchronous and asynchronous teaching. So first we'll touch on the Zoom polls. We have another MiniByte that's just on Zoom polls. And if you have not used them yourself in class, you can see that at this link. I will provide the slide deck later. But this is basically what we're going to be looking for in terms of the actual having that analytics on the back end. Is when you go to stonybrook.zoom.us, you can select the report type, and that will give you the responses that they had. The other thing that you can see from Zoom, which doesn't count for this, but is useful, is you can see how often people have come in and out of your session while you were teaching. So if they came in the beginning and you made some kind of a show for looking around, seeing how many people were in the class, but then they drop right out, you'll see that on the back end of Zoom. So Point Solutions currently is a student paid for engagement option. Just like when you require the students to get a textbook or to get some kind of a subscription with a publisher like Pearson or McGraw-Hill, this is a buy-in. It's usually happened to almost every student that comes to Stony Brook because the clickers are traditionally used in very large lecture settings, and most of our freshmen attend very large lecture settings, especially if they've done any kind of sciences in Javits or in Fry Hall. So it used to be that every student had to have the physical clicker. Here somewhere, but that was really before a lot of instructors were comfortable with mobile devices being in the classroom or with laptops being available to every student in the classroom. So as time has gone on, more and more instructors are getting more comfortable with them just picking up their phones and polling in that way. But to know for right now, most students will have already had this, so you don't have to worry so much about feeling guilty for charging them, telling them to get something that does cost something. It does work for both face-to-face and online, and it does integrate directly with the Brightspace Grade Center, which is nice. It'll make the column automatically for you, and just like it did in Blackboard if you ever used it in that system. So actually, I'm going to do a poll, and if you want to, you can either get your phone or your website, browser up, go to ttpoll.com, and or the app is Point Solutions on your phone, but you can also use your browser on your phone. So ttpoll.com is the easiest thing to do. And I think I have more information on here. So this is just briefly going to let you see, I don't know if this is a blown up floating poll icon. This is what I have over here. I think you guys can see that. The anywhere option for using clickers or polling is really nice because like I am now in Zoom, right? But I'm going to use this polling for my engagement today with you. It doesn't have its own application that it needs to be in. You can poll on top of you just speaking. You can poll on top of looking at some medical data, x-rays that are not in a PowerPoint. You can poll on top of a PowerPoint. You can poll on top of slides. You can poll on top of Keynote, whatever you want. Excel sheets. It can be spontaneous, or you can have those polls built in already, whatever you want. And it's just very, very highly flexible. And the credit that they get for answering in the poll is very flexible. They can get points for simply being there. It doesn't matter if they're right or wrong in their answers, or you can discriminate, give them more points for being right. You can use it for minor assessments, all sorts of stuff. And as you can see over here, it has the ability to do all sorts of multiple choice, short answer, numeric responses, essay responses. Please don't do essay responses, really. No, just don't. Demographic assignments, which are pretty cool because you can, if you're in a huge lecture hall and you have 30 recitations that are taught by TAs, you can ask them to say, hey, which recitation are you in? And then you can do some analytics with the data that comes in after that and see if there's a particular section that's falling behind and maybe do a little investigative work to see why that's happening. You could also do demographics for things like, say you're a psychology or kind of social science instructor. You want to ask, are you first generation? Is your family first generation here? Are you the first person to go to college? Does your parents smoke cigarettes? Do you have, are you a child of a divorce or whatever? And then you can take those demographics and compare it to everything else out in the course. You can also do gamification with this, and you can do speed polling and all sorts of stuff. It's a very comprehensive polling solution. It has a lot more choices and features than I've seen in any other polling. And let's do something, right? Let's see. Here we go. So right now, if you've gone to ttpoll.com, my session ID is SBUJLA. So you can enter that session ID and go ahead, and I'm going to join it too, actually. Okay. So is anybody having any issues with responding?
There is a question on the chat. Greg says, we can do polls in Zoom too. What makes Point Solutions an enhanced option?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of things that we talked about, like the fact that it automatically will push the grades into the grade book. The fact that you can set those thresholds so that if you do 5 poll sessions during your course, and you don't want to give them attendance unless they've answered at least 4 of them. You can set your values correct, incorrect. You can make lists of questions in advance. You can not be Zooming. So you could do it in live classes. I can have you do it with your phone without having to do any of this. I don't know. It has so many things. And also, if I do spontaneous questions, it'll take a picture of what I'm working on at the moment so that I can kind of remember later on what it was that I polled about there. It does all sorts of whole class analytics and individual analytics. It does those demographics I was talking about. Really, all the flexibility. It has way more flexibility than just taking a poll. Does that answer your question? Yeah, and the students' information, you know, I just had you do this and you put in your first name, right? I was able to, I could have asked for more information for registration, but since this is just a little session, I didn't make them put in their email and all that kind of stuff. They will, it automatically syncs to the roster for the course that you're teaching. So you would have all of that, and you can actually see in your own roster if they have clickers registered, if they have a license, what time, when does that license expire? When did they get their license? So a couple of things for that. And let me go ahead and stop this, this poll so we can actually see the results here. So that comes up too, which is nice. I think you get something like that though in Zoom as well. And I can, if this was a right or wrong, I could mark which one was correct so everybody could see that whether or not they got it right or wrong. I have a set session ID that I'm using, this SBU JLA. I use it for all my workshops, but if you were doing this in class and your concern is that they're sharing session IDs, you can set them to randomize so it's not the same every single time. And you can also set it so that, like, I had a timer with this that I didn't really use, that they only have 10 seconds to click in. So things like having a session ID that changes and having timers will help stop them from sharing successfully. Julie, go ahead.
So is it correct that when you do this through Brightspace, it knows who the students are automatically because they kind of authenticated their clicker or something? Or how does that connection happen?
Yeah, so there's 2 different ways that the connection can happen. The instructor can actually go into their Brightspace course and put a link in that directs them to the login for Point Solutions. And that, or they can go to echo360.com and log in there. And both ways will make that connection. It knows that it's Stony Brook University by the login, because it's a login with your email. And it also will, it gets all that data from Brightspace so if you're taking 3 different classes and the instructor has indicated that they're going to use clickers by going into their accounts, the same thing for them. So you could do it right now, actually. You can go to echo360.com and then log in with your email address, find, I think it asks you for your region or something, and then Point Solutions. You could see what classes are available for you to use, which are basically all of the courses that are in Brightspace currently that you're teaching. And it will make that connection on the back end. We have that all set up.
But I didn't do any of that today because it's just kind of like a free.
Yeah, this is me.
Got it.
I have special like seats that I can use for workshops, and I can also hand them out for other special workshops as needed, as long as there's not too many, because I only have so many seats. Yeah, this is just me demonstrating. Any other questions about Point Solutions? And do keep an ear out, because we're working on things behind the scenes for this. So hopefully you'll hear some more news about it. Yeah, the Brightspace does have an attendance tool inside of it. It's fine for small classes. It's fine for a situation where you would be going, oh, Jim, are you here? You know, that type of thing. It's manual entry. It's not automatic. And it doesn't automatically integrate into the grades area of Brightspace. So if that is important to you, it's not good to use. It also doesn't show any learning. So it doesn't meet the requirements for the federal mandate. But I just want you to know about it. Actually, Point Solutions also has an attendance tool that has nothing to do with active learning. It's just an attendance tool, but it's not manual, so that's good. And the other thing that is good about it, if you're an instructor who really wants those butts in your seats, it has a location thing. So if you're outside of a radius, it won't let them check in. So that is kind of cool. Again, doesn't meet the mandates. It's just making sure their butts are in the seats, but it is there. I think this is the Brightspace one, what it looks like. All right, so the other way we can take legitimate attendance is just activities, right? Whether they're synchronous, asynchronous, any kind of quiz, discussion board, or assignment that you have in Brightspace is doing something that's learning and shows that they were actively involved in taking your class. I recently suggested to somebody who really they didn't feel like their students would have licenses for clickers. They didn't want to make them buy that they let their students know, hey, well, it's fine. Just bring your cell phone to class, bring a tablet to class or your laptop, and we're going to do a quick assessment. So you could open up in the middle of your class a little quiz that you have pre-made, and have them answer 3 things and then close it. You can, again, keep that window tight if you really want to know that they were involved with you at the same time as you're involved in the rest of your class, particularly for things like face-to-face classes. And you'll obviously get those analytics and you can show that they were in class. Any questions about that? And I feel like we don't think about using the LMS when we're actually in class, but we totally can. Echo 360, you may use it for recording your classes. You might use it at home for recording your classes or in the classroom. You know, it's a full visual, records everything that you're projecting, records everything that's on your camera, and allows students to watch these videos afterwards, live. And if you choose to stream live, it's not by default. You have to ask for it, or at least check it off that you want live streaming. And you can put activity slides into these decks. You can load up your deck before you teach, the same deck you're going to teach with. You hide the slides that have activities on it. And as you go through, when you get to that one, you open up the activity. It's like all the others. It has the same type of question choices, right? There's the numeric, short answer, multiple choice, the usuals. And say step through, they answer the questions, you get analytics. So that's also an option. It's not quite as nice as Point Solutions, but it doesn't cost any extra money. So if you're already using that, that absolutely will count. So just again, I know I've already touched this. It's my kind of like hang up, especially when you ask students to buy the things that you're polling them with. Don't ask questions that are meaningless for this. Don't ask, are you here today? Did you do your homework? Or click in now for attendance. Those don't show any learning, and we don't want to encourage that. But we do want to encourage pre-assessment questions, mid-lesson assessments, make sure that they're actually getting what you're talking to. That can be really eye-opening. If you're sure you've been really clear about something and you throw out a question and half the class didn't get it right, you know, that's can be an epiphany for an instructor. And take a little time, take 5 minutes back and maybe have them talk to each other and say, well, why did you say what you said, teach me why you chose what you chose on that multiple choice exam, and then take the question again and see if it improved. You could do homework spot checks. So instead of just asking, did you do your homework, ask something about the homework, post-assessment questions. And you can ask questions about things that explore cultural diversity or opinions. And you can do those anonymously. And you can also do Likert scale questions and things like that that don't have right answers, but will bring meaning to the course that you're presenting that day. Julie, go ahead.
Sorry, maybe silly question. The last slide,
Mm-hmm.
when you're doing like an anonymous question, you can't figure out who people are to use it for attendance verification, or
This is true. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just checking.
Yeah, but it's an appropriate question. So you would want to pair that with the other ones that you can. Yeah, we don't like anything that's anonymous and not really anonymous, where you can look on the back end. There are instances of things like that. For example, in Echo 360, there's a chat area, and they can ask questions anonymously, but the instructor actually can tell who it is. But the things that are actually assessments and polling and stuff like that, if it says it's anonymous, it's anonymous. And one of the things you should know is that if you do a survey in Brightspace and you think you're going to get those people, but you set it to anonymous, you never will. So don't make that mistake. We can't change it afterwards. So there's a link here to all the nice instructions on how to actually get your records into the attendance verification. And then we have a bunch of resources about all the different tools that we went over today. And we have our contact information along with our ticketing system, so that if you have things that you need to have done or troubleshot, or you just need to reach out to us somehow, that we will get that information through here.